So both spending and influencing are driven by women. 83% of all consumable income in this country. So that's the first 80. Whatever your 80 is really, really critical. Here's the middle 80. It's around talent. Talent today looks significantly different than the C-suite does. This 80 represents the 85% of new entries into the workforce who are women and minorities. Let me repeat that number. 85% of people turning 18 in this country today are women or minorities. Said another way, only 15% of men turning 18 in this country are checking white Anglo on the census. 35% of men are checking multicultural. They're checking Anglo and some other box on the census, or they're choosing not to declare. But what this says is you can't go back and talk about women without talking about the intersect of multiculturalism and also the intersect of millennials, because these three macro trends are driving the workforce change like we've never seen. And millennials are the interesting one. Believe it or not, most millennials don't want to work for your company. So put your talent hat on for a minute. 44% of millennials say they want to have moved on in the next 2 years. 66% say they want to leave your company by 2020. And oh, by the way, the best and brightest aren't even knocking on your door. The #1 major in business school today is entrepreneurship. They saw their parents right-sized, downsized. Why would I possibly go to work for a brick and mortar company? So the best and brightest is not even coming into your organization, and they're choosing not to stay. Oh, and by the way, if you think millennials are just kids, no, the oldest millennials are turning 36 this year, which says they're the bulk of your middle management. They're going to be your leaders in just a couple years, and they need to drive change in the company. Women, 60% of the master's degrees, 58% of the bachelor's degrees. So if you need a bright, educated workforce, chances are it's women. And here's the scary trend that no one's talking about. 10,000 boomers a day, old white men like me, are leaving the workforce. Change is upon us. 10,000 a day are going to leave the workforce for the next 15 years. And so you cannot afford to lose any talent out there. In fact, the numbers are startling. By 2020, even in a slow growth economy, there's going to be 20 million jobs created and 32 million jobs vacated. This is 52 million jobs to be filled, and there's only 29 million potential new employees. And so there's a huge gap of 23 million employees. And we have a major STEM crisis in this country. Only 15% of women are declaring STEM majors, but only 29% of men are declaring STEM majors. So we've got to get so much better about managing talent, because you can't afford to lose a woman, a minority, a millennial, or quite frankly, an old white guy. So we've got to get better at managing talent. The last 80 is engagement. Engagement in most companies is a function of productivity. Well, the problem is most leaders, 78%, list it as important or urgent, but only 15% believe they're ready to address it. So engagement, how do I get more work out of you? That's how we drive operating profit. And so I'm going to jump into this real quickly because I'm already getting the high sign. But this is how you create an integrated framework. You have your revenue, your operating profit, and company reputation. And then you have to go out and engage every function in the organization. Sales and marketing, operations, supply chain, human resources, and senior leadership. Everyone has to be engaged, not just HR. They can't lead it. Who's doing this well? And then you also need integrated communication. Target. If your company could be Target, Target gets women in their DNA. When you call on Target, it's all they talk about is she and her and what is she up to in her life. Nike's an interesting one. Nike's actually changing their DNA. Within 5 years, women's athletic apparel will be the #1 seller, outpacing men's tennis shoes at Nike. So companies can reinvent themselves. Chevron is doing some amazing work called Engineering Her Way. They take college juniors and put them out on oil rigs. The first thing they do, though, is train the men on the oil rigs to be accepting and make them safe so that when they come out there, they know what they're doing. But it's a huge commitment because Chevron needs women in engineering. Kimberly-Clark's doing some great work. It's called choke point analysis. They're going back and actually analyzing where women are being lost in the pipeline, and they're putting in strategies to specifically address them. Person by person by person. That's what best in class looks like. From an HR standpoint, Amazon, everybody's heard of them. They just implemented a 20-week paternity program. That's men and women. So when Amazon calls your best and brightest employee and says, hey, you want to come to work for us? Gosh, no, not really. Well, we've got some great benefits. Oh, no, I think I'm going to stay. That's all right, we'll call you in another month. Your best and brightest is going to get poached by the best and brightest. Here's another one, Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin won the Catalyst Award. You think about, hardline defense industry. Two of the largest defense contractors in this country actually have women CEOs, General Dynamics and Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin is doing tremendous work on male engagement because they know that's one of the keys. Senior leadership, AT&T has 60,000 people enrolled in employee resource groups at $50 a head. Do the math on that, and that says that is real money and real commitment. You want to move women, you want to advance women in your organization, as much as I love employee resource groups. When was the last time you did a big M&A initiative or a brand introduction with a bunch of volunteers and $15,000? You got to get serious about people and money if you want to drive the needle. And then the last one is PwC. I know they're one of the sponsors. This was not planned. PwC is doing an amazing job in that Bob Moritz is out there visibly, vocally championing for women. And then the last one, believe it or not, is Walmart. From a company reputation standpoint, Walmart has recently put its billion-dollar suppliers on notice to say, if you're going to call on me, I want more women on my sales team. I want to be more reflective of the consumers we serve. That's a customer flexing their muscles saying, I want you to improve your diversity numbers. So critically, critically important. So that's the business case, and that's how you hook up everything we're going to talk about today. I'm going to close just for 2 seconds on engaging male champions, and this is more to set up the rest of the day. We're going to talk about things like the man code, and we know the man code exists, right? It's all these male cultural norms that we're faced with every day. Things like avoid all things feminine, be a man's man, be a winner, be strong. You're going to hear a lot of the future speakers talk about how we overcome these male cultural norms and why that's so important. But it's important to tell the story, because as a man in an organization, I have to overcome this. Ray said it, I said it. This is not a comfortable place for most men. We're going to spend a lot of the time today talking about this. We're also going to spend a lot of the time talking about who are the male champions. Who are those 30 to 40% of men who really get it? You know who they are. They're men in your organization with a great sense of fairness. They just wear it on their sleeve. They have a very non-biased view of talent. They also understand the business case, but I have found 9 times out of 10, there's a personal connection. And the men I find who get it are fathers of daughters. And this is really interesting, because to most women, they look at me like, how can men not make that connection? But believe it or not, we lead very compartmental lives. We do not make the connection that if I'm not advocating for women in the workplace, I'm actually hurting my daughter's future. And it's because we make no connection between our daughter and women at work. And yet, I was a good dad. Whether it was soccer or dance, I supported my daughter. I made sure she went to a great school and got a great degree. And when my daughter graduates and makes 80 cents to my son for the same job, I choose to do nothing. I choose not to advocate for women. And I will tell you, fathers of daughters have a responsibility to do this work. And so that's the heart piece. Thank you. Thank you very much. And so on your tables, and you can come to my website, is an initiative called the Father of Daughter Initiative. It's 10 simple things men can do to advocate for women. You can download this on your company intranet site, and all you have to do is print it out, put your daughter's name on it, sign it, and hang it up in your office. And it immediately marks you as an advocate for advancing women in the workforce. We'll jump ahead. So that's the leadership imperative. How do we get some real teeth and some real business muscle into this? How do we move it from a conceptual understanding to an operating strategy with a sense of urgency? I'm going to be hanging around for the day. Email me, jthalter@whywomen.biz, if you would like a copy of this presentation. I am happy to share this. This is work I love to do, and I'm so happy that Ray asked me to come and speak to you today. So with that, I want to thank you, and I'm going to turn it back over to Ray.